Hi all, welcome to Workato Masterclass series. Today we are going to see a continuation of our design discussion. So before we move into our today's session, let's have a quick recap on what we have understood or what we have went through in the previous session. That is our design on the requirement phase, right? How to approach the design based on the requirement understanding. Why design is important, and also we have seen few use cases and converting that requirements into a design perspective, right? So we have seen why design is so much important with respect to requirements. Okay. If you have missed it, please go and check our previous session. I'll be providing a link in the description box. Also, you can click on the I button at the right top of our video. Okay. So let's start with our today's session, that is design in integration. That is, I'll be discussing two of this, that is point-to-point integration and hub and spoke integration. Okay. When you see that the name suggests point-to-point integration, right? It's very straightforward. That is also called as peer-to-peer integrations or P2P integration, because you are connecting two separate software applications, right, directly to exchange the data and communicate without intermediate. Like you're just taking the data and putting into the systems or the system. Say example, you're taking a Salesforce data and you're not converting anything in respect to a Workato, like any of the integrations tool or MuleSoft or Workato or any Snap Logic or Delbo, right? Any of the integration tool, we are not using incoming data to do a transformations or do something kind of say uh, changing the value of that or adding the value to that or concatenations or something, right? You're just getting the data from source and putting that data into the destinations. Okay. So in that case, have to create multiple connections. Say example, you are say when you say when you want to transfer data from Salesforce to NetSuite, say one of the connections, the two of the connection you have to create. And say again from NetSuite to you want to do a transfer the data. Once after the creations happen, then you have to go and create a one more connection for the destination application. Say example, SAP. Say SAP, you want to transfer the NetSuite data to SAP, then SAP connection has to be established, right? So there will be a kind of three connections you have to establish for the point-to-point integrations, right? So it is typically like involving one-to-one connections between the two endpoints. Okay. Whereas we'll see a hub and spoke integrations. Okay. It is a centralized and structured way of connecting multiple systems. What it does mean is like your hubs remain same. Through the hub, you are connecting to the other systems. So example, Salesforce, then SAP, NetSuite, and Workday, any system, right? Okay. Let's see with an example which particular integrations is when it is important to go with. Okay. When to go with the point to point and when to go with the hub and spoke. Okay. Let's see first with the difference between those two. Okay. So majorly, we have to go for to think about hub and spoke instead of going for the point-to-point integration. See, easy to scale because hub and spoke it remains like hub remains same, and the spoke become the connections for you. Like says for SAP, and say tomorrow Slack comes into picture, we can add Slack as a connection. That's all. There is no requirement of connecting between the systems like Salesforce to SAP, SAP to Microsoft Teams, or Microsoft Teams to Slack or something, right? There's a record of connecting with them. Data consistency will be there. Whereas point to point, it can be varied sometime, right? So simple to maintain, right? Better security, hub and because the point to point, the connections wise, right? If suppose we say you have using two second or like primary connections and secondary connections, okay, and one of the connections not established which you're using, okay, and there may be think about your data not transferred, right? So one of the cases like security reasons, like it may be you're not authenticated properly with respect to the with respect to what's to, or you would have not used any of the security protocols. So example, there'll be API tokens or something. You provide a say example username and passwords. That can be something kind of insecure, right? So hub and spoke also remain same like security wise, but where you can compare to point, it is a better approach. Go with cost effective, definitely, right? The hub and box gives you a more valuable for your cost than the point to point. So, but the chances of, say example, if suppose the hub got failure, every system's got affected, will be affected. So it's a centralized system goes off, then your other remaining system which is connected to hub will be gone, right? So, but in a case of point to point, it is like to the system which you are connecting, if it got failed, only that system is get failed or not able to get a transfer the data, right? So the security wise, in my case, they both HubSpot and point to point remain safe until you use the proper connections protocol. So example, if you want to use a security version like security wise, you have to go for OAuth, go for the OAuth, right? Don't go for user and passwords. That will be secure, because if you save it somewhere which is like it can be seen by other third-party vendors or third-party person, that can be hacked. Your system can hack and steal the data, right? So always think about the security protocol as well when you're using API as well. In case of when you're going for your point-to-point integrations as well, when you're doing API, also think about how to save, how to do the protocol, API protocol, like security protocol with respect to adding the clients and what kind of client you're giving, the access profile you're providing, like with the OAuth or the API token. Okay, don't go for the basic authentications always. Like if it's no choice for you to go with the OAuth or API token, then you have to go for basic authentication. But always mask the data when you're doing the recipe on the top of the connections. Okay. Now let's understand with an example. Okay. Say we have a 4 systems now, right? One is Magento, SAP, SAP. You can say like, don't say SAP. I can just skin SAP. Then is Workday and Salesforce. Okay. Now from Magento, I am sending order details to SAP and also Salesforce. Okay. From there, and also I'm sending the Workday employee data to the Salesforce. Now, in this case, suppose you say, if I go with the point-to-point integrations, it creates 4 connections. Along with that, you will be getting 4 recipes. One from Magento to SAP, then Magento to Salesforce, right? If you go with and then again you have to go for Workday to Salesforce. It's totally 3 recipes you have to create, right? So if I go with the hub and spoke, are they creating a trigger based whenever I want to do that? Or you can select whenever there's order data is created in Magento, you have to pass the details to SAP and Salesforce. So Workato or any other integration tool will take care of the transformations or get the data from that and pushing the data to the destinations. You're saving 2 more recipes, right? Or you can save at least 1 recipe in that case. Suppose you want to transfer the data from Workday to employee data from Salesforce. Then we can do the same in that particular recipe itself. Suppose you want to connect, there's a link between for systems, then definitely you have to be taken care of the system in the same recipe. Or else, so when you want to go with the point, say example, you have to transfer the data Magento to only SAP. There is no link between Magento to Salesforce. So you cannot take Salesforce into consideration in your integrations, right? So in that case, the Magento and SAP will talk. Only these two systems will talk. Say again, the Workday employee data has to be synced with the Salesforce, not with a Magento or a SAP. Then in that case, I am connecting only to Workday and Salesforce. That will be a point-to-point connections. I'm not doing any transformations or something. I'm just sending the data from Workday to Salesforce. So in that case, your integration has to be a point. So hope you have understood basically the difference between hub and spoke and also the point-to-point integrations, right? It's very important to understand your integration design. When you are choosing, you have to be careful, okay? Because you cannot, on the case of saving the cost, you cannot simply go to hub and spoke. It has to be validate your design with your requirements. You cannot simply go and choose hub and spoke for your all the integration or a requirement for your given requirements. You have to think in the perspective of which design holds good for this, and also think about the cost or think about the recipe design, right? Very important for the cost wise, also business perspective. Sometimes both can be taken care, right? When if you show design properly according to your requirements, then the cost automatically taken care. Suppose if you choose a wrong design, then cost inversely goes up. It's like directly proportional. So example, if you choose a design properly, the cost will come to, or gives the justification to that particular requirements. If you not keep a design properly, that particular the cost goes up proportionally like that. So choose your design according to your requirements, plus which integration suits in that particular condition. And don't blindly go with the point-to-point integrations or a hub and spoke. Sometimes we have to go for point-to-point integrations unless it's suppose there is no any kind of a frequent data exchange. If there is a data exchange is frequently is there and there are multiple systems involved, then go for hub and spoke. If it's a point-to-point, the direct data transfer from one system to another system, it's a very straightforward. You have to go for peer-to-peer or point-to-point integrations. Okay. Any questions with respect to or two of this particular integration design? Please comment your questions over there. I'm happy to help you. I'm happy to answer your questions. Okay. Okay. Next, we'll go to our quiz part. Okay. Which gives you understand or which gives you or make you understand on your knowledge with respect to what we have understood so far in the session. Okay. The first question goes like this. It's a scenario-based question. Try to understand the question. That's why I have taken a scenario-based question for you to understand the requirements. Okay. You are managing the system with a multiple application, okay, which involves CRM, ERP, HR, and e-commerce. Each application requires direct data action with every other system. Which integration model is being used? Your options are hub and spoke, point-to-point, service-oriented architecture, and API gateway. I guess it's a very straightforward question, and also you can see that is like it's asking for direct data exchange, then I think everyone would have answered this question. So let me give you the answer. This is point to point. Okay. Let me go to the second question, which is if your goal is to streamline the communications and new system with minimal disruption to existing ones, which mode would you choose? One is point to point, hub and spoke, star topology, and service. It's a little bit tricky, but I guess you'll answer this question. Let me give you the answer without wasting your time. It's hub and spoke, because since this says it streamline the communication and add a new system with a minimal disruption to the existing ones, because I don't want to do any kind of disruption or do any kind of issues with respect to existing connections or existing recipes. I want to do with the minimal changes. I want to make a decisions, make a add the new system, right? Okay. The third question goes like this: in which scenario would a point-to-point integration would be more practical than hypersport? Okay, just uh, think about what is point-to-point and hypersport and try to answer this. Okay, so options are when only two systems need to exchange data infrequently, when integration many systems with high scalability, when there is a need for centralized monitoring for all the data flows, and fourth one is when you want to minimize the number of data connections. Read the question is straightforward, but the options are a little bit tricky. Plus, you can try to try to understand and read between the lines so that you can understand. Okay. Okay. Let me give you the answer. That is when only two systems need to exchange data infrequently. Okay. Okay. So I guess you hope you have guys enjoyed this session as I am, because I love to exchange the knowledge between to any of you members on all over the world, whatever I know, right? So I guess you have understood the why design is important and what's the difference between the point to point and hub and spoke, and when to use point to point and when to use hub and spoke. Try to take this design in your mind, and whenever you go for any of your requirements, try to analyze the requirements and try to understand which design gives a better result and with respect to cost, scalability, security, right? And easy to install, easy to change. It's to change the in upcoming changes. Suppose whichever any changes comes, your recipe should not be have a major changes to make, right? Okay. So keep doing this, adapt this particular design in your requirement or in your career, or maybe in your so far if you are doing your implementations as well, so that gives a longer run you are understanding, longer run for you to quickly understand the requirements and go for the design. The moment your design is completed, that means you have completed 70% of your part. The rest of it will be implementations and testing. Okay. So I will meet you in the next session. Until then, keep learning, enjoy your design phase. Thank you guys.